So, I did my hopes and fears video 2 weeks ago, and most of my fears came true, and hardly any of my hopes did. That sucks. However, there is still a format that can be extrapolated out of this, and I'm going to take today to outline how Champions Draft might look. How's it going, guys? And welcome back to the channel. Now that Pokémon Champions has finally been released, we know its fate. There's no 6v6 in the game. It is a dex of only 186 mons with about like 50 megas, I don't remember the exact number. And there is a serious restriction on items. There is a bunch of them that are just not in the game. So it led to some difficult decisions that need to be made in terms of, is there a format here? The answer is yes, but there is going to be some modifications that are required. And I'm going to go ahead and outline them as we go through today's video, as well as some of the ways that's being tested ahead of some of the big events that's going to be involved in, such as leagues in the form of DGBA, as well as Trick House, as well as DPL, which is probably going to be the biggest thing that has Champions as a format. If you guys do enjoy these sorts of discussion videos and are enjoying Champions as a game in general, do let me know down in the comment section below. As well as let me know if you would like other sorts of Champions content. I've been playing the game quite a bit myself, and I've been enjoying it. There's a lot of fun elements involved. And if you guys want to see some VGC or Battle Spot content from me, let me know, because it could be something different and could be something cool. But I do want to primarily focus on Draft Ninja's channel, so I will keep it mostly with Draft Ninja's channel. So, without further ado, let's get talking about how this hypothetical Champions Draft format is shaping up a couple days after release. So, what you can see in front of you is the tentative DGBA and DPL board as of the 10th of April. This is publicly available information. People like L5 have been sharing this around, so I do think that this is fair game to be talking about in videos. Things are obviously subject to change, and there is going to be a bunch of speed tours and things like that I know L5 wants to run, including one on the day that this video goes live, about 2 hours after I put this up, if you care that much. And I'm sure there'll be more stuff down the line in the future. You also have Smoke on Draft stuff, which I will cover later on. So you look at this tier list here, and the obvious thing is that you have 4 major bans. And those bans are not surprising whatsoever. Mega Alakazam is broken because of its speed tier and access to Nasty Plot. Mega Blastoise gets Shell Smash, and there's no Mirror Herb in this game. So that's just free if it can get it up at any stage. Mega Gengar is stupid because Shadow Tag is dumb in a format like Draft, especially when it's 130 speed and that much attack power. And Mega Lucario, its adaptability, and has been Ubers for forever. I don't think it's ever been legal in Draft, unless it's Ubers League. The interesting conversation is Dragapult, and that is because, obviously, there is no choice band or choice specs in this game, as well as there being no heavy duty boots, which does make it a little bit more fair to legalize. The big thing is it's likely going to be running leftover sets, and it still has access to all of its statuses in the forms of Will-O-Wisp and T-Wave, so you can still run the Hex sets pretty well. It can still run Scarf in some of the matchups where there is like scary setup sweepers, which there'll be a few. There's a lot of scary setup guys in this game, but there is definitely a case for this thing might go, but I think trying it out first could be quite good. The issue, as we will get into a little bit later, is that Dragapult drafts are too easy to make because so many people in a hypothetical round 1 with these boards have to take Megas, and that's a problem. Escarada is obviously in the 20 point tier as well, kind of has the same issue, didn't lose anything in particular going into Champions, and it has the same problem that Pult does in terms of it's too easy to draft around since it's not Mega. And rounding out the 20 point tier we have Mega Starmie, which I mentioned how it might get banned, and it might get banned a hell of a lot quicker than I thought it would. And that's because huge power is dumb, it has a bunch of utility, and it can even run like special techs such as Thunderbolt for insert bulky water here that might be able to take a hit. There's also no Rocky Helmet in this game, so you can't even punish flip turns. It is the best Rapid Spinner in the tier, which is why if it goes it might suck. But Mega Starmie is a fantastic mod. It's probably going to be too good, because there's nothing that really beats it, but we need to kind of see it in practice first. Then, you kind of keep going here, you have all of these Megas. Gallade and Lop were always going to be here. Gallade, I spoke about in the Naptex video, is really, really good. Same with Lop because of its new access to Mop Punch and just a bunch of stuff. Mega Floette is Fairy Aura, so it's basically mini Xerneas. So don't talk to me about this thing in VGC because oh my god, it's cracked. If anyone has a spare one that they want to give to me via home, I'm here, let me know. And you keep going down this list, nothing too surprising. Mega Delphox and Mega Gren being round 1 mons in this metagame isn't too surprising. Aegislash looks pretty good at 16 points due to Poltergeist. And I will leave this doc in the description, just if people want to kind of take a look at it. And realistically, there's not a lot of surprises here. If there's some things that are very limited in this format, it is ground types. But the thing is, ground types aren't really needed in this format. Like, you look at the ground types, and once you get past Garchomp, you are then looking at stuff like Mega Escadrille, Mega Garchomp, neither of which are too amazing. You obviously have Crocodile, and then you're kind of getting a bit cheap. So, you have your Escadrille in 10 points there. You have Gliscor at 9, which obviously there's no Toxic Orb in this game. It does get Roost back though, so it might not be too bad. And yeah, there's just not a lot of good grounds. Steel type's actually relatively plentiful, which is nice compared to other generations. And the thing with this is, it's very much a case of this will need to be tested. Because there's some stuff that could be too cheap here. I think Mega Meganium might be too cheap. But the only reason that we might not see it enough is because the opportunity cost of not using, you know, Mega Starmie, Mega Gallade, Mega Lop, Mega Floette, Mega Delphox, Mega Greninja, Mega Medi, Mega Arrow. That's 8 immediately. That's not even mentioning Scizor, D-Knight, Glamora, which with adaptability I think is going to be really good. Frostlass, which, you know, has Snow Warning, could be very, very good. Rest in peace, Mega Skarmory. Why'd they have to give you Stalwart, for God's sake? And yeah, like, you have a lot of options here that we might not see Meganium enough, but I think Meganium's a very good mod and could definitely be more expensive than this. And there just is a lot of cases of we're not 100% sure, stuff might be way better than the way they're initially tiered. And there's confident people tiering these, like on DPL, you have L5, you have Jasha, you have Addison. On the small draft side of things, which I'll get into in a minute, you also have Addison, you have Odin, you have, I think Kyle's involved, I don't remember who else is involved. There's a bunch of people involved when it comes to the small draft side of things, which, as far as I'm aware, that kickoff should be starting very, very soon, with signups today as of this video going out, which is cool. So, the other thing that I'm only clarifying now, as we are 6 minutes into this mini ramble session, about 8 minutes into the video, is that we're not going to do 3v3 on Showdown, to the surprise of absolutely nobody. We're just going to use 6v6, it's what we know, and that's what we do best, is adjusting things as needed. That's why we didn't really play a bunch of pre-home if we didn't have to, and pre-home Paldea decks didn't really get used aside from Smart Draft Kickoff Tour. So, that's an obvious thing. The item clause will be an interesting thing, whether it will be we use the limited list of items, but you can use them however much you want, or if you use item clause. Both are being tested as of time of recording, and we don't really have any data on that. I will do a follow-up on this, kind of maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks time, just kind of give you an update on how Champions tiering is going, because, you know, it's something that's cool to talk about at the minute and is the main focus when it comes to drafting. So overall, this is a really interesting board. There's a lot of cool mons in Champions that could be quite effective, and I might do some breakdowns of some of the top tiers as we go on. But realistically, Champions is a playable metagame, and that is a good sign. When you only have 4 bans and it's a metagame of 186 mon, it definitely does make it viable for an 8-mon format. Leagues, I wish you good luck. You kind of have to stick to an 8-man format. Otherwise, it could get a little bit grim. The other thing of note is that there is a conversation in regards to the point allocation. Currently it is set at 90, similar to everything else, but there is a chance that 90 is going to be too much and people are going to have too many points left over. And that also ties into what I said about Dragapult and Masquerade teams being too good. The solution, instead of maybe banning them, could be to lower the budget to 80. Which kind of levels out the playing field because you can't just keep stacking stuff on top of Dragapult and Masquerade because you need to be a lot more points conscious, which could benefit them as well as level playing field for the 4 to 5 people that need to take a Mega round 1 because of the way the metagame is. That would be an interesting conversation, and I'm sure that will develop over the coming weeks. By comparison, this is the current tiering doc at time of recording for Smog Draft's kickoff tour. And there's not a lot of differences. You can still kind of see the same ideas. The only major changes is stuff like Palafin being more expensive. You don't have a 20-point tier, for example. All these are down to 19. 18 are the same as the top tiers for DPL. And then you just have this 17-point squish here, where you have Mega Delphox, Mega Greninja moving up, as with Mega Floette. So you just kind of have this larger 17-point tier compared to the DPL doc. Aside from that, a lot of it is the exact same. And that's not the most surprising thing. There is some crossover between the two of them in terms of who is tiering these things, and there's a lot that just makes sense when it comes to these tiers. Obviously, it's going to be a major case of trial and error, and this event does start first before DPL, so this is kind of more of the testing grounds. But there is like mock drafts and stuff being held just to kind of get an idea of what picks will go when and how those drafts turn out in terms of how broken they are. And this is the fun thing about the start of a generation. You have so much theory modding going on, and so much just crafting in terms of this is a draft that could hypothetically happen. And some people just have a better understanding of that than others. This has come up previously in some of my videos, including with Zing when we were talking about building in team tours. Zing is one of these people that has such a good natural grasp on a metagame from early on that he always manages to find things before everyone else. That's why the first DPL of Gen 9, he was stacking up King Gambits and Hisuian Samurots that just did insanely well because people didn't know how to deal with them. And that's what he's good at. Kaker's good too. Shock. Players that are good at Pokemon have good understandings of early game draft metas. Wow, what a surprise. But yeah, there's not a whole lot more to really say about these. They are definitely interesting to see, and it is a format that I'm looking forward to kind of sinking my teeth into. And that's just nice that we have something that's not SV. That's the thing I'm happiest about. Yeah, it's a little bit scuffed, but at the same time, there is still light at the end of the tunnel. The only thing we're really missing information on now is what happens in regards to Wi-Fi based draft. There's a few ways it could go, and the obvious one is just only do VGC, which, while yes, would kind of suck for singles guys like me, although I'm getting into VGC, so maybe I'd dip my toe. I don't know. I'd figure that out as we go. The other option is something like a battle spot style draft, but you do best of 3. This could be a really interesting dynamic that I hope places do try to incorporate. No 6v6 sucks, especially when it was probably a simple case of 5 minutes of code. And hopefully it comes in the future with other updates as quality of life keeps going, especially if they do want to keep this game going for as long as possible. And that's kind of it. We'll see on the Wi-Fi side of things. I imagine those tiering boards will look very similar. And there is maybe a case for the Wi-Fi might do that PS definitely won't, because of the fact that it could do 3v3. And that would be allowing teams to draft multiple megas. This has been seen in certain tours around the place that I think could be really cool to implement now from a content side of things. Because you could see 2 megas at preview and be like, ooh, I need to figure out which one's going to come to game 1 or game 2. And I think that could be a really interesting dynamic. Hopefully places do that, and if places do that, I'm more than willing to try it out. I think it'll be quite cool. And that is everything that I have in terms of the way the Champions is currently delving up. Bit of a shorter vid this week from me. I thought it would be longer with a lot more invested breakdowns, but there's not a huge amount to talk here. Wednesday was definitely a disappointment due to the fact that we learned there was no 6v6. We learned a ton of abilities that were just disappointing to say the least. If you guys want a separate video breaking that down, I will do that. But where we are is simple. We have a format, it's playable, it's viable, and it looks like it could be pretty fun. Or incredibly jank and we all hate ourselves. But hey, it could be worse. It could be Sword and Shield pre-home, which some of us did have to suffer through. I hope you guys all enjoyed this quick little breakdown. If you did, let me know in the good old YouTube ways. And do let me know if you want to see some more Champions content, both from a draft and non-draft perspective. Hope you guys all enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one, which might be a little bit sooner than you think. Gotta ride this Champions hype, baby. Peace.